Hey everyone, Bar the Red Hand here, back again with another Wheel of Time video, and is it good to be back, fresh out of JordanCon, ready to get back into the Wheel of Time hype as we prepare for Season 2. But before we get into Season 2 speculation or anything like that on the channel, I want to go ahead and get back into some book content and just kind of ease myself back in a little bit. It's been a good little break of, taking some time off reflecting on Season 1 and having all that time to prepare and get ready for the hype that was JordanCon. Hopefully you caught my vlog of the entire experience. If not, please go check it out. It's here on the channel. Many of you may have noticed that my good friend Lesbian Nerdy just recently released a video talking about her top 5 favorite side characters from the Wheel of Time. Now for her, she used what she would have called C and D tier characters, and I don't necessarily know if I'm going to be able to stick to that requirement, but I am going to talk about 5 of my favorite side characters. And I do have a little bit of an easy time about this because I've talked about it on Twitter before, but upon reviewing that tweet, I realized some of them side characters are a little too A tier. So we'll go ahead and go over the characters on that tweet, cut the ones that I'm not keeping because I am keeping one of them, and then we'll get into the ones that I'll be adding for this video. The original 5 characters I had in the tweet were Teslan, Pavara, Talmanes, Birgitta, and then a tie between Ishmael and Grindal. As you can see, that's not necessarily like a ton of like lower tier characters. The lowest tier character on that list is probably Teslan, and for me, she's like an A tier character. That said, she stays on the list, and we're going to talk about her at the end. But for the purposes of the video, I'm cutting the other 4 completely out. So they're just not going to be there, and they're all too high tier. They have way too much page count, word count, badass moments, if you will, in many respects. So yeah, I can't go with the remaining 4. They're just too good. All right, let's go ahead and pick 4 new characters, and I'll just run through them one by one. So the first new character is going to be Fager Neald. Now, Neald is one of the Ashamen who accompanies Perrin on his trip down to Gildon to make an alliance with the Queen down there and deal with the Prophet. So they're his gateway openers and some channeling support should he need it. So as we know, not everything goes smoothly for Perrin and his crew as they go down there. They seem to just constantly gather refugees, and they have to fight and deal with the Shido Aiel, and then they can't gateway out when they need to. So yeah, it's never a good thing. But through the whole thing, he has Neald with him, and he accompanies him through all of his trials and tribulations, through dealing with the Prophet and his Dragonsworn, and dealing with the Shido, to making it out of the Dream Spike. He survives getting bit by a snake, I think, at one point, which always seemed weird to me. Both he and Grady get like bit by a snake or get sick at the same time. It's not, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was insane that they both got bit or sick at the same time, and then were unable to make gateways, like right after the Dream Spike had been removed. So yeah, they were stuck traveling on the road for a little while longer without gateways. But everyone will know that Neald's claim to book fame happens when he helps Perrin forge the Power Rodhammer Mahalanir. And for that, for me, he's just one of the coolest characters. It's the first Power Rot weapon like in a long time. I think since the breaking, though I would have to go read these to figure that out, to be 100% sure, but it's been a long time, regardless. Yeah, so, no, maybe since Ardor Hawkwing, because of the O's of the Aes Sedai. Yeah, so definitely Ardor Hawkwing. But yeah, that's just, I love that chapter. I know some people don't like it. They're like, they just forge a hammer. I don't get it. But like, it's kind of that, it's one of those moments for Perrin, right? And Perrin has his moments, and then he doesn't. But when he has his moments, I think they're really great. And just Neald being a party to that, and providing the initial stream of power that supplies Perrin with the heat to forge the hammer is just phenomenal. Alright, so next we're going to talk about another character that I dearly love, and one that I think the community does not talk about a whole lot, and that is Nalesean. Now, I love Nalesean because he has this real kind of standoffish nature around Mat. He's Tyron, he's a noble, he's a lord, and Mat is not. So there's this weird dynamic between them that exists throughout their entire relationship. We first meet Nalesean when he takes control of the Tyron cavalry during the siege of Cairhien, and he's there at the birth of the Band of the Red Hand because Mat's battlefield tactics and his ability and skill just astonish him. And basically it's, captain, my captain, we will fight for you forever kind of deal. So that's kind of how the Band of the Red Hand gets formed. And very early on we see it within book 5. Talmanes and Nalesean are already going at it because, Nalesian's Tyron, Talmanes is Cairhien. They just don't get along. Nalesian is, of course, most well known for going with Mat to Ebudar, where he is the very first victim of named characters that we've spent some time with of the Golem, and it's pretty gut-wrenching. It's one of those things where it's like you kind of know something's coming because Nalesian's like yawning and complaining about how he should have slept in instead of going with Mat. And Mat was sitting there thinking the whole time in that chapter, like, I should have just let him stay. I shouldn't have brought him. He's just sleepy, or he's drunk or hungover. I can't recall specifically, but there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And then it hits you at the end, and you're like, that's why Jordan repeated this throughout this chapter. I was actually stunned when I read that chapter the first time because I didn't think Nalesian was gonna go. Honestly, he had been Mat's main Band of the Red Hand guy for so long. Talmanes wasn't with him. He was up doing mercenary band things, managing the band while they were down here with Elaine and Nynaeve. It hits me every time I think about it, and I think Nalesian is kind of one of these forgotten side characters. Not a lot of folks talk about him or really discuss the impact that he possibly had on the formation of the Band of the Red Hand. And to me, that's just like kind of strange because, obviously, like, Talmanes kind of really assumes the role of the second of the Band of the Red Hand after he meets back up with Mat, and then, of course, when Brandon takes over and starts writing Talmanes, and he becomes like super mega awesome. Which, don't get me wrong, he was already awesome when Jordan was writing him, but as Brandon likes to say, he just wanted people to see Talmanes as he saw them. It's hard to talk about Nalesean without talking about his relationship to Talmanes because they stand opposite of each other a lot, and I think that dynamic is used several times throughout the series. But really, Nalesean and Talmanes were the first batch of that we kind of got, especially around Mat. And yeah, his death definitely had an impact on Mat, I think, early on, because it changes a couple of the ways he goes about operating, especially after he meets with Noel and folks in Ebudar. I think he's underrated as a character, and I encourage folks to read a little deeper when they encounter him on rereads. So next up, we're going to talk about a character who's a little less of a downer, because they don't die, so far as we know. But we're going to be talking about Aludra, and Aludra is one of my personal favorite recurring characters, who eventually becomes full-blown side character by the later half of the series. Of course, we first meet her in The Great Hunt, my favorite book, where she's at the Cairhien chapter house, the Illuminators Guild, and Rand, of course, blows up the fireworks stocks there. She meets with Mat and Tom, which is kind of a funny little coincidence, and definitely I think Jordan was planting a lot of seeds with her early on. And we don't really see her again until we're with Mat in Ebudar after he is recovering from his leg injury, and he's meeting with Aludra and talking with her. And I have to admit, like, y'all, Mat and Aludra were my OTP, or one true pair, when I was reading it in those chapters. Like, I was so hoping for Mat and Aludra to hook up and be together, and then of course that stupid prophecy got in the way. But for me, it's Matt and Aludra, always and forever. So yeah, definitely during those conversations, the flirting was laid on thick, and I loved it. But Aludra's awesome. She's very intelligent. She knows exactly what she needs in terms of like metallurgy from the Bell Founders and what kind of fault tolerances that the cannons need to withstand, given that I'm sure the Illuminators have never actually built cannons, though I am sure that they theoretically knew about the possibility of them, which is why the fireworks in their guild was such a tightly kept secret, because they knew it could be weaponized. But the fact that, she basically knew exactly I mean, this is amazing. Like, she knew the tolerances needed to make cannons. I'm gonna stress this. Like, that puts her at like genius level stuff, given the technology and availability of education at the time. Granted, she is a trained illuminator, but again, she's not a metallurgist. She's not a blacksmith or a Bell Founder. So the fact that she even can do kind of the mathematics of what she would need to make cannons viable or dragons viable is just phenomenal, and everyone should be floored by that. Jordan did really great with Aludra, and yeah, she's just wonderful. And the last of our newcomers is going to be Saerin. That's right, Saerin Asnobar, Sitter of the Brown Aja, leader of the Black Aja Hunters. I love Saerin. I think she's freaking phenomenal. She kind of breaks the mold for a Brown. She's very commanding. She's extremely strong in the one power, and she knows it, and she uses it to wrest control of the Black Aja Hunters. And she's very politically astute and is very aware of specific moves and maneuvers she needs to make. So yeah, Saerin is consistently awesome throughout the Black Aja hunting arc of the books. I think it's phenomenal when she recognizes the potential of Egwene not as just an Aes Sedai or a young person being trained in the power, but as the Amerlin seat, and eventually throws her clout behind her to reunify the tower, because she can see the bigger picture, and she knows things are not looking good. Egwene's display of power during the Shan-Chan attack on the tower definitely helps drive some of that home, I think. So, she's like, maybe we should listen to this girl who embarrassed Elida several times. So yeah, Saerin is just, I think she's probably one of the coolest Aes Sedai that we meet. And I think it's kind of a shame that we don't get to see her and Moraine interact, really, because I just think that interaction would be really awesome. I think they probably have a lot in common. She's just, anyone who can bully Cadsuane into becoming Amerlin after the last battle is a badass. That's it. And so, yeah. Plus, she has an S name, and we all know how I am about Aes Sedai, whose names start with the letter S. Alright, and finally, we are at the point of the list where we are going to talk about Teslan. Now, Teslan is one of my favorite side characters, and I really think she occupies this space because she has a full arc in the series, from the moment she's introduced to the last moment we see her on the page. And I really appreciate that. Even though she's not like a main character, she has like a very solid like beginning and end to her story within the Wheel of Time. Now, when we first meet Teslan, she is already like a sitter of the hall, and she's been an Aes Sedai for a long time. She helps Elida depose Swan, which is a huge mistake.
I've made a huge mistake.
You know, she's in Elida's good graces for a while, but eventually she gets on Elida's bad side and she gets shipped off to Ebudar to be an emissary of the tower down there. And we link up with her when Matt and Elaine and Nynaeve end up in Ebudar looking for the Bowl of the Winds, and they run into Teslan. Teslan talks to Matt because she wants him to give Elaine a note telling her that she's in danger and basically to not return to the tower. So this first act, I mean, it's a little bit out of spite of Elida because she's pissed at her, and rightfully so. I would say Elida's kind of awful. So anyway, right from this first moment, she already is kind of endearing you to her. Unfortunately, during the Shan-Chan attack on Ebudar, she is captured and made a damane. Fortunately, she escapes and travels with Matt and crew, and throughout her travels with Matt, they develop a sort of friendship, kind of camaraderie, which was, I mean, a lot of people often will say that Pavara is the red that makes us love the Red Aja, but there are other Red Sisters that do it. I think, Teslan and Sylviana are right up there with Pavara in really making us like the Red Aja, because Elida doesn't give us a good impression at the beginning, and then we have Leandrin, who turns out to be a dark friend, so they have a pretty rough just reputation from the start of the series, and a lot of fans hold on to that first impression. It's human nature, don't blame me, but the Red Aja, and as I've reread the series and gotten more into the depth of the world and the lore through various other books published, supplemental materials and whatnot, I like them a whole lot. And I think I think they are necessary, and I think they are awesome. And, without the Red Aja, there's no world. There's no Third Age. There is no... there's no story, because it gets destroyed at some point. So, yeah, they're extremely important. And I like this kind of reputation repair Jordan does, especially starting with Teslan. And her friendship with Matt grows throughout their travels with Lucas Circus, and up until they get to Camelin, and she helps Matt finally kill the golem. She can't harm it with the power, obviously, but she distracts it, and that allows them to corral the golem into the gateway, where he then falls. Gateway port to the skimming. It's a gateway to the skimming location, to the void, the world in between, where it falls to its death. So, that's big brownie points for sure. And just the thing that really cemented Teslan for me, and specifically her friendship with Matt, was their parting scene, where they exchange words, and at the end of it, they shake hands. Previously, Teslan would not let a man touch her, like at all, and at the end, she shakes hands with Matt. And I just think that says a lot, about her as a character, and how she is different by the end of their journey within a journey. So, yeah, she's just always, she's stuck with me ever since I finished the series, and I'm happy so far as we know, survived the last battle. We did see some scenes of her there doing various badass Aes Sedai things, and yeah, it's I can't wait to meet her in the show. I am just so excited, because I really want to see Matt and Teslan's friendship on screen. It's one of my favorite little relationships within the series. And if you've been on Twitter for any amount of time, or watched a couple of my other previous videos, you know that this makes the top of my list of small Wheel of Time moments and things like that. So yeah, Teslan's awesome. And with that, we've reached the end of the video. I hope you like this list. I hope we can agree on some things, disagree on others. That's fine. I'm open to discussion and having my mind changed. And I hope I've changed some minds about some of these side characters for y'all. Really, like, they are some of my favorites, and I'm happy every time I am reading a passage with their names in it, or if they're saying something. That's kind of how I pulled this list together, is like, what characters do I just get kind of giddy about when they show up? And so yeah. Thanks, Jenny, for putting your video together. I really appreciated it, for giving me the idea to do this, and getting it out there. It's good to get back to book content. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and don't forget to check out my Patreon if you want to support what I do here. As always, watching the video is more than enough. I appreciate it, and I will see y'all next time.